Yes.
All right. Well, good morning. I'm here with attorney Bryan Larson. He is in Utah. He actually helped work grassroots with Jeff States back in the day, helping with his certification program. And he is fantastic at helping do seminars for doctors so that they are learning to begin with the end in mind and make sure that they're working up and documenting and diagnosing properly and keeping those records done correctly so the attorneys actually have what they need to leverage the cases properly at the end to get fair restitution for our patients and their clients. And I just wanted to ask Bryan a couple of point blank questions on Bryan. Well, what makes you tick? What's your why in going into this stuff? And what sets you apart from other personal injury attorneys?
Well, that's an interesting question. And you're asking me to psychoanalyze myself, and I don't know. I don't hold myself out as any psychiatrist or psychologist or anything like that. But I think at the base of it, I think most plaintiff attorneys, to some degree, if they're any good at all, they like to help people. It's because of that desire to help others. I'm the kind of a person that if I see somebody with their car disabled alongside of the road, I'm likely to pull over and offer to help if I can. If I'm, hopefully, if I'm at the grocery store and an elderly person is struggling with their bags, I'm willing to help them and, do those kinds of things. When people come to us, it's because they typically have been involved in something that might even be a life-changing experience. They're hurt, they're racking up thousands of dollars worth of medical bills, their car has been destroyed because of their injuries. A lot of times they can't work, they can't bring an income in. They're stressed. They're afraid of the wolf at the door because they've got house payments and car payments and kid payments and things to make. And so there's a great deal of stress involved. Now we can't fix everything. We can't solve everything. In fact, the law prevents attorneys from advancing money or giving them cash kinds of things, short of something that's directly related to the advancement of the litigation of the case itself. So I can't say, well, here, let me give you a debit card to use until we can settle this case. I can't do that. Any attorney that does can get in trouble for it. But what we can do is we can provide a rope to them in the storm. We can be a lighthouse, maybe recommend to them places they can get care and treatment for their injuries. We can explain to them the process. We can get the property damage part of their case settled right away. We can get sometimes a stream of income coming in through the personal injury protection program, part of the coverage. We can unlock the different coverages that are available to them that most people don't even know about. So that's something that we can do, but it comes from within a desire to help people. And I think any good attorney is going to feel that. Any good physician also needs to feel that. And if they don't, they probably should not be a physician. If there's
Right.
not a level of empathy or compassion for their public or their patients, they probably should look for something else to do. Go whatever, go dig ditches or something. But don't hold yourself out as a healer or a practitioner of the healing arts kind of thing. So that's what motivates me. I enjoy what I do. Um, I oftentimes make jokes about how I'm not talented enough to do anything else, but I do have this one area where I've focused and worked hard at, and have been recognized extensively in my career for that skill and ability. And I'm proud of that fact. I don't brag, but I know that I'm very good at what I do, and I'm very effective at what I do. And I like teaching seminars to physicians in particular. And we've actually got another one coming up on October 25th that is got 8 hours of continuing education. We have people signing up for it right now. Please contact my office if you're interested. We've been doing it for years, and we have a wide variety of really excellent speakers coming to speak that are presenting us. But the reason why I do these is not because we make money doing it. We oftentimes, usually, in fact, lose money on putting these seminars on between the cost of the facilities and the catering and everything else. But we do it because we want to build a personal injury arena in Utah, and we want to strengthen doctors that provide care and treatment to patients that have personal injury cases and claims. Because if the doctors are stronger, if they know what they're doing, they're going to get paid more effectively, more efficiently, and the cases will end up being stronger for the clients, and the whole machine works much better. So that's
I
why
can
we
see
do
that's
that.
and that's
Yeah,
why we do it with the Whiplash Group. So you're doing your
exactly.
seminars. Yeah,
And I applaud you, Jay, for all the incredible things that you've done with the Whiplash Group and the great seminars you put on and the work that you're trying to do and accomplish. There's a number of people out there that are in the seminar business, but there's only a handful that really do it good, really do it well, I should say. You're certainly in that group. I like to believe we're in that group. And you mentioned Jeff States a minute ago. We certainly encourage every doctor to take Jeff's Personal Injury Training Institute seminar system. That was something that, my goodness, I represented Jeff back in the 1980s on a couple of cases, and he and I worked together initially to build that. And of course, he then took the germ or the seed, and he germinated it and made it grow, and it's changed and developed and morphed into what it is today. So it's a great system. But knowledge is power. And in fact, the name of our seminar is the Personal Injury Powerhouse Seminar. We used to call it Utah's Best Chiropractic Seminar, but now we've got physical therapists, we've got MDs, we've got other people that are coming to our seminar, so we don't limit it to just chiropractic. Although chiropractors are, of course, are where our heart and soul is at. We love chiropractors and love working with them, and they
that's awesome.
constitute the majority of
So
people that come. So
I hope those watching, that's what the Whiplash Group has always tried to do, is bridge the gaps with medical doctors, PTs, chiropractors, massage therapists, and the personal injury attorneys. That's all they do. They're just black belts at personal injury. And Bryan is one of those that we highly recommend. And as we're trying to expand into these other states, we want more attorneys like Bryan Larson in other states. We want more doctors that are certified. And Bryan, if you can just tell us, why is it important? I mean, if you're putting this energy into the seminars to help train doctors to do things better, and we're doing that in the Whiplash Group, how does that make it work better for you with these certified docs?
well, yeah, very simply, one of the things that doctors need to do is communicate with the attorneys that are involved, because uh, there's a principle in the insurance industry, and that is that the adjusters that are handling the cases, they have to set their reserves for an amount of money that they believe that claim is eventually going to cost them. We want them to set those reserves as high as possible. And they need to do that as early on in the process, because if we wait until the very end and they think the case is this big and we ends up the case is this big, then it strips their gears and causes all kinds of problems. So one of the things we encourage the doctors to do is, and we will send a request for records out fairly early in the process, because we want to see what that initial exam looks like. We want to see what kinds of symptoms the patient's complaining of. We want to see what the course of treatment is likely to be, so we can project about when the patient's probably going to be either done with treatment with the chiropractic physician or maybe moved on to other treatments. And we oftentimes will share those initial records with the adjusters so that they can adjust their reserves and set them higher. Look, this patient's got problems X, Y, and Z. It's not just merely a very simple whiplash case. It's a whiplash case with significant complications. And we like to know that information as soon as possible. That's a communication issue. And we see a lot of doctors that aren't familiar with what we're doing. They get our request for records and say, well, that patient's not done treating yet, so we won't send you anything until the patient's long done treating. Sometimes it's months after that.
Yeah.
And that's a very bad way to approach things, because it lets nobody know what the patient is saying. In another example in that same vein, we always query the patient, what their symptoms are, what they're experiencing, and those kinds of things. And sometimes they'll tell us a different story than they actually tell the doctor, because patients are oftentimes poor historians. And if we
Mhm.
look at the doctor's records and we say, hey, the doctor, this patient came to us She met with us. She was complaining of shoulder pain, not just lower cervical, but actually pain extending and radiating into the shoulder and maybe down lower. But if she doesn't describe it quite that way, if the doctor doesn't pick it up quite that way in his initial exam notes, that can be a problem later on if that shoulder pain, in fact, develops into being something else. Another classic example of the issue of concussions. I we don't issue a Rivermead questionnaire or anything like that to the patients, but we do give them a couple of questions, and we're experienced enough to know, hey, this patient sounds like he or she might have a concussion going on. We'll oftentimes tell the doctor that we're referring to, watch out for a concussion on this patient. Well, if by the time the patient gets in there, he or she doesn't give that kind of history, or the doctor doesn't give the concussion questionnaire, that may be an overlooked diagnosis, and we want the DC's diagnoses to be complete and thorough because otherwise it can cause problems later on in terms of the case valuation. Lots of things like that. I could go on and on and on, Jay. I've had doctors send to me patients and the doctor doesn't even know how to bill no fault,
Mhm.
which I don't know. It sounds crazy almost, but that means that the doctor's accounts receivable is going to be going up, and their clinic cash flow is going to be impacted if they don't know how to get that initial money in. And
Yeah.
likewise, sometimes you'll get a case that has got two layers of coverage. It'll have the initial bodily injury, and then later on it'll have underinsured motorist coverage. We settled a case recently for a very good amount that ended up having 2 years between the time the initial bodily injury and the UIM was eventually settled. And the timing of getting those physician records to us is critical. If we get the records up front and there's a significant amount of bills and there happens to be low limits in the bodily injury area, it's very possible we can obtain what we call a limits drop on the bodily injury stuff earlier, fairly quick, and do the rest of the treatment and the battles on the underinsured motorist. What's the advantage of that? The advantage of that is that the doctor uh, begins getting a pay down on the amount of their lien that's in the file. They get their
Nice.
cash flow much earlier than a doctor who simply says, no, I'm going to wait until the patient's entirely done treating. Okay. And then we get all the records and we look at the records. We said, my heck, this should have been a limits drop on the bodily injury level months ago, or
Yeah.
sometimes worse than that, even years ago.
I think these are
And it
great
causes
examples.
problems. Yeah.
Great examples,
So
Bryan.
that, yeah, wind me up and you'll get all kinds of stuff. But
Yeah.
that's an example of if the doctor hasn't a clue about how the whole system works, then they're going to hurt their own cash flow. And if you're not a good business person, you're not going to be a good physician for very long.
Yeah, see, this is great. Thank you, Bryan, because this is what the doctors need to know. And this is why we want to get them certified and trained because this is med legal is a much more bigger machine than you think, and you don't know what you don't know, and that's why you want to work together with a team and communicate. The fact that the Larson Law requests records early and in the middle and at the end rather than just waiting till the end is awesome. Those are the kind of attorneys you want to work with. We have a couple other in some other states that also do that, but most do not. Please, doctors, communicate with your attorneys as a team for your patient. And Bryan, thanks for sharing those gems to help us sharpen our skills.
Call and talk to the lawyer. And don't have a relationship that's nothing more than a sandwich at lunchtime. Have a relationship with a lawyer where you can call and the physician can share, hey, this is what the patient's got. These are the problems we see. They're actually, one last thing, Jay, just as an example, sometimes you have a patient that's lost their car, they've lost their job, they don't have the ability to get to appointments. There are companies out there that we know of that will take and act as a taxi service to bring that patient to the doctor's office, and they will work on a lien basis. But
What
if
a
the
helpful
doctor
tool.
doesn't know that, yeah, if the doctor doesn't know that, then they're gonna lose a patient.